grab your popcorn, grab a drink, put the recliner up, because it's time for the show. We've got Team Octalysis versus Tempo Storm, and this is a storied matchup. Since the inception of HGC, J-How, if you count Bloodlust, these teams have played each other 8 times so far, the core of the teams, that is. And if you're counting Bloodlust, they are 4-4, dead even between the teams.
Yeah, that's no different than what we've had this year. They've actually split their 2 series this year, 1-1, and that's earlier in the year. But most recently, Octalysis took a series off of Tempo in Part 2 of Phase 1. So they hold the most recent win in this. They're going to try and, with that continued success here against the Tempo Storm, which is still answering some questions with Vin coming in again this week.
Right, Vin is going to be here, and though Tempo Storm did defeat No Tomorrow with Vin, no doubt this is going to be a far more punishing match. No Tomorrow, as of yet, has not been able to win a game. Octalysis, they lost 1 game to LFM, but you can chalk a lot of that up to feeling things out. It was game 1, the drafting. Justin talked a little bit about that with the Zeratol and Dragonshire. Other than that, though, very punishing, very aggressive, especially toward the new player Droplets, and maybe that'll happen with Vin too.
Yeah, quite differently than what we saw from Heroes Hearth just moments ago, where they ran the same tank, a lot of the same composition over and over. Octalysis did it very differently in their matchup, where they had different compositions every single map, different tanks. So this is 2 very different teams than what we saw face against LFM. So they've both faced a familiar opponent, both had a tough test. But this is a much tougher test here for Octalysis now with Tempo.
Yeah, Octalysis, the only 2 heroes that they played more than once were Deckard Cain and Prismaticism's Gul'dan. And that's not the first time that this team has done this, tried to be really flexible with their earlier matches so that it's very hard to glean what they prioritize in drafts. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of this match, because there's so much more to talk about, let's hear from the players themselves about this very important matchup.
The roster changes within Octalysis, I think, probably were pretty disruptive, losing Dansky and Cure to highly influential players. Bringing back in Prismat and Draded kind of reminds me a little bit of last year's Roll20 roster a bit, and I think that core 4 group of players can consistently provide pretty good results. I'm excited to play against Goku, mostly because he pushes my mechanics to the test. He's a very good player when it comes to baiting rotations and baiting positioning on the map. I think between both us teams, right now we're in a bit of a tryout period, reestablishing a roster, and that has struggles. However, my confidence isn't too faltered. I think we should be able to, if we play close to our best, win 3-1, 3-0, hopefully. But depends on how well they've shifted with Draded and Prismat as well.
So coming into this weekend, we have to play Heroes Hearth and Tempo Storm. I think it's probably one of the biggest weekends of the entire phase for us, just because Tempo Storm, obviously, they have the new sub coming in, so they're probably going to be weaker than they will be at the end of the phase. You can't get an easy replacement for Psalm, who was one of the best players in North America. So, I mean, I think they look a bit weaker, and I don't think they're going to look as strong until maybe near the end of the phase when they start to build more synergy with their new Open Division player. I think the Tempo Storm series will be filled with some very interesting drafts that we might not have seen in the HGC yet. I think it'll be a close series, but I think we're going to end up taking it 3-1.
You know, J-How, I was thinking back to the Towers of Doom game between Tempo Storm and No Tomorrow, arguably the closest of all of the games, and I realized what I think happened there is Tempo Storm has this very delicate balance, talking about the atmosphere of them. It's almost a math equation where you have the very hype players in Fan and Glaurung, and then the voices of reason that are Caterpillar and Psalm, and then you've got June there, and June's June, right? And so obviously it's going to be a big change in the communication, the feel of the team when one of those is missing and different, and especially when the person that you're bringing in is new, they're going to be contributing to comms but not wanting to rock the boat too much, especially during a tryout period. And so I think that's why we're seeing them fall back into some of the old mistakes that we saw from them before, that being mid-game staggered deaths.
Well, you bring up an excellent point. If we look back at them historically, it seems like there was always that one missing piece, that one missing element of what it was. Yes, they didn't win mid-season brawl, but they had a top 4 performance, which I think is a pretty stellar standout performance from a North American team to finally reach those ranks again. It seemed like they had the formula, as you alluded to, but now part of that equation has been disrupted. Are they going to find the magic number, the magic, variable in this equation to bring it back? Because it seemed like this roster had been together for 2 years. The core of it had, and they'd been through some changes. They had Fury there before. They'd been through some role changes, but it seemed like they had everything going in the right path. Now they're searching for more answers. They're still very good. They still have the 4 probably of the best players in North America, maybe all on the same team. Some people would argue that, but they have a lot of the elements there. But finding that magic piece is the main thing.
Well, let's start with the Battleground pool. And though I agree with you, I don't think that there can be a replacement for Psalm and what he was for this team. We've already seen it a little bit before in some of the change-ups in what Fan is playing and how Fan is playing the Maiev and switching over to that, which lets Vin play more of the back line. We're going to talk about Infernal Shrines in a second, but yeah, I think it's going to be more of this is a new team and a new adaptation and a new feel, and the atmosphere changed. They don't have remnants of the old one, but still it changes. Infernal Shrines, but Tempo Storm is picking it. What gives?
Yeah, it's a very different change-up. Obviously, you could basically write Battlefield of Eternity etched in stone when Tempo's playing as a ban, and then Dragonshire being banned against them. But Infernal Shrines rising in priority here. It's more of a neutral battleground, but I will say this is 2 teams that both like to play Alex Straza on this battleground. So I'm curious how we're going to play around that. We've seen Gul'dan, as you mentioned, with Prismat a couple of times so far. So I think that there are some clear strategical advantages that could come out depending on the draft in this battleground. I think Tempo does have a lot that they play around it. We go back to mid-season brawl. Maiev was something that we saw them upset Ballistics on this map. So, as you said, is Fan going to continue to assume that role, and is it going to have the same impact that we saw before?
So what I will say is that Tempo Storm, of the 2 teams picking Shrines, I would have expected Octalysis. This is a favored battleground. It has been for a long time for Octalysis. Yes, the Battlefield of Eternity ban. Octalysis, they changed their bans up to whatever is going to suit them, and they're going to ban Dragonshire versus Tempo Storm. I think that's very heads up. Sonya first pick for Octalysis shows they don't want anything about the Blaze. They don't want anything about the Urel. They're sticking to having Goku Sonya, and that makes sense. But look how high that Alex Straza is.
I said both teams will play it on this map. I didn't expect it here. I mean, obviously, if you're Tempo, you're going to wait for it to get through the second ban phase, which with these teams, especially Octalysis' first pick, might be unlikely. And so that comes out of the gates really early. I don't know if we've seen too many Alex Strazas pick this early, but definitely making a statement because those were snap locked in.
And whereas we talk about the flexibility and how many different heroes Octalysis played in their one series, 4 games last week, I expect Tempo Storm to do what they did last week in their one series, which is by the books. Not changing too much up because they are playing with a sub. They want to stick to things that have worked for them in the limited amount of time that they have practicing with them. But Octalysis gets an old favorite, 3 old favorites for this team: Sonya, Malfurion, and Diablo.
Yeah, Diablo on this battleground does do really well. We saw some change-ups. Obviously, W build has been very strong, but we've seen Devastating Charge in one game, I believe, last week take place. This is a great map for that, as we're going to see the Gul'dan ban. As you mentioned, there are some things that these heroes like to play, and that's going to be one of them. So taking away a key element that has really good clear on the Shrines, and I wonder with Tempo Storm if they might try and make a play with Phoenix to really gain control over that.
Yeah, I expect that too, considering the fact that Horrify, our last series had a gamut of Phoenix players struggling with people locking him out of Warp, and Horrify can be a problem for that. It can also be a problem, though, for Ethereal and trying to drop down Sanctification in the right place. And now, though there's Roots, there's no Silence of a Stukov, which is another way of trying to stop Ethereal Sanctifications. So this is nice to see from Tempo Storm.
They have come out with a clear game plan. Not only did they pick the battleground, but they have come out firing in some of the fastest picks we've had. This might be one of those super fast drafts. There's a lot of confidence, as we can see in the vote so far. Tempo Storm got a lot of fans out there, Gilly, as you said, on that cheer system up there. It's neck and neck with Heroes Hearth. They just can't quite get over the hump. Maybe this will be the game where we see a little bit of cheer, a little bit of voting action for Tempo, but Octalysis, hard to imagine them only 20%. Must have a lot of fans out there. Fans of fan. Fans.
Who isn't a fan of fan? Loving this Diablo. There were some Diablo changes that we'll no doubt talk about once we're in the game, but benefiting him for the most part.
He received a health buff too, didn't he? He sure did. He sure did. When your health gets buffed, guess what? Your trait also gets buffed.
Last 2 picks, there is no Gul'dan. Still get a Tychus instead. Tychus Tassadar. Tassadar works well with all of what we're seeing here.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay. Glaurung said, look, Zuna, I saw you last week. I promise I saw you last week. Let me show you something, okay? Illidan coming out here with the Mirrored Interior. I saw that and I thought maybe. Alex Straza can go Cleansing Flames and dive up underneath there. When you see a Tychus and a Tassadar, you don't necessarily have to worry about the aggression coming towards you. Sonya and Diablo do, but you can dive in with that Cleansing Flame. This is going to be a wild matchup, but I look at the map on the side of Octalysis and I'm like, is this 2015? Because those are all like OG heroes. Super old school.
But Octalysis has been willing to show that they will dip into those old strategies. When I saw Sonya, Malfurion, and Diablo, I was almost like, are we gonna get a Medivh? I mean, who would play it? We don't really know, given this new roster. Probably Prismaticism. He seems to play a little bit of everything, but here we're seeing Draded play the Tassadar, and Prismaticism will be on that Tychus.
This is wild. I mean, it's a lot of auto attack damage for Illidan to just press evade. Yeah, I'm popping my evasion. The fact that we're getting 2 Illidan games, I would have never said, if you come into this phase 2, I'm like, there are 0 Illidan games being played unless it's week 10. We got one right now. Number 2.
The different build, too. Let's get this match going. Glaurung will be playing that Illidan. Caterpillar playing Muradin. Vin's going to be on the Jaina in the back line, bringing in the damage. Fan will be flexing over to the Tyrael, and finally, June playing as Alex Straza.
Can't believe my eyes on what this game already is. We are opening up with fireworks. Justin, of course, will be on the front line on the Diablo. Goku spinning to win on Sonya, trying to match up against that Illidan. Draded, of course, will be on the Tassadar. Prismat on Tychus, and Buds will be on Malfurion. Will this be a Twilight Dream to silence the Illidan, or will it be a Tranquility to potentially hold on to the dive of an Illidan and Cleansing Flames potentially?
That's an interesting setup because you have to remember the Jaina. And can she heal, or can Malfurion heal through the burst of that? Can they deal with the burst of that? I would say having Tassadar shields is going to be really nice, as well as the self-heal of the 2 frontliners that you have, and even Tychus is more tanky of a backliner, so potentially we may see a Tranquility from Buds just so that he can heal the team back up and then they can re-engage after things like Sanctification have been down.
Perfect Storm obviously picked up 4 Cattle, trying to land those in rotation. And we got Globe built, going for Alex Straza, of course, so completing that quest, you'll spawn a Globe whenever you put down that circle of healing. So making sure to prioritize these rotations. Now they turn their attention towards the camp. So Tempo Storm, a clear strategy in their draft, a clear strategy in their early game rotations. Gilly, this looks primed and practiced.
It does, and like I said, I was like, I bet Tempo Storm comes in, they play very solid, standard, by-the-book strategies. They don't change anything up. They're playing with the sub. They just want to play things that have worked enough in scrims. And obviously this is likely to be worked on in scrims, but to come in the first game and be willing to flex into the Illidan and flexing Fan onto the Tyrael too.
I think my favorite part about this now is the narrative when you were introducing the teams, as far as the history between these teams and how long they've been around, and yet we look at the drafts and it's only like an Alex Straza who's anywhere relatively new to this game. It's like, well, they know these heroes. They've been playing them for a long time previously, not necessarily the most meta at certain points, but it's back.
And I have talked before about Jaina and the pairing that she has with Sonya, because you keep targets slowed. She has an easier time getting on them with the spear, the whirlwind too, but slows also benefit Illidan when he's trying to chase a target down just as much. And I love seeing, or I'm really excited to see how the Cleansing Flame works with an Illidan too when he's trying to dive for kills, because we've seen it have great success with the Genji.
Hold on. Is this the one with the buff, the other heroic that has never been seen?
Lifefinder, yes.
I like the heroic that has never been seen. It sounds much cooler.
That's fine, we can do that too, Harry Potter style.
The inverted ancestral.
Heroic that must not be named.
Have we ever seen that? I know we haven't in North America.
I'm pretty sure there was one game in China. And I say that because
It's China.
it's China, and they have all sorts of talent diversity. I'm sure Tetra or Kendrick will let me know.
Ooh. Hit us, boys. We also have In the Rhythm for Tychus. Obviously, if you can evade auto attacks, obviously evasion only lasts so long, as does Tychus's minigun, but if you can stack that up, the minute that evasion goes down, then you have an opportunity to rip through that health bar ability.
Tempo are almost reaching critical mass, but Octalysis lead the charge here, and that's exactly what they need. Dragon Queen used slightly earlier than what you might have wanted. Glaring's gonna get slammed into a wall, but now Tempo Storm with that Dragon Queen moving on to the point.
Such an
jeez.
I mean, those numbers just skyrocketed the minute that Dragon Queen came out. Now it looks like they're going to be able to finish it, but they're looking to try and take Cattle with them. The heal's going to be up. The Dwarf toss out. The root's going to land onto Glaurung. He's alive for now. He is going to be the first to fall, but the Punisher gets picked up. But Illidan, he found his way in there, and we're going to say that a lot.
I feel like that is a really good showing from both of the teams on the first shrine. Tempo Storm get the Punisher with the Dragon Queen. A lot of times you see that used around the 25 mark, but even using it at 18 and still being able to get what they needed to there. But because it took them a little bit longer than what they would have liked, they ended up losing Illidan, and Octalysis is willing to stay around using that Diablo to get one kill, and the Great Roots heads up from Buds to capture the Illidan and get the kill there, and it's a very close game as a result.
We're going to move forward here. Obviously, pretty even in terms of experience, that camp being responded to. Now we'll see the rotations out again. Again, keeping track. Alex Straza sitting on 13 of those globes so far, so just over halfway now. We'll continue to look for that and be more of an impact in that healing department. Putting those down, obviously giving a little bit more heal, a little bit more sustain in those fights, especially with this dive style composition. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Sanctification. I can't see any prime judgment targets. We have Relentless Soldier also picked up by Taika, so if he does get stunned out from a potential hunt or even an Illidan stun, that does give him bonus armor, which is really good to help survive in that backline. No need to go in quarterback when they're right in your face.
This is a really cool duo of abilities or talents. Jayhao having Thirsting Blade. This is the increased healing from basic attacks while Sweeping Strike's damage bonus is active, and the damage bonus is active longer because of Battered Assault, plus the possible extra damage bonus if you can hit 2 people. And there is a fairly melee heavy in maybe being able to hit both Sonya and Diablo, or seeing where the rest of Octalysis are, but it's a very focused on trying to give himself that self-sustain, that self-heal, and keep himself alive, maybe better than what happened at the end of that last shrine phase.
Well, also got the spear damage going out here as well for Goku. It's one of those things that if you're going to dodge auto attacks, well, I'm going to give you a little bit of poison damage from one of my abilities. So definitely finding ways to deal with the Illidan finding ways to deal with them on the other side. As we can see, the soul's completed now for Diablo. Super tanky at this point. By the time we get to the next shrine phase, we're going to have 10s, and this game's going to look entirely different.
Yeah, for Illidan, you want to have a lot of lockdown, and you do from Diablo and Malfurion too, but if he can kind of juke and jive around and avoid those spears, then otherwise you're just looking at the possible slows from a Tassadar too. You should be able to find some success here. It's awesome to see Glaurung back on the Illidan. Let's see what he gets for her heroic. Let's see what Tyrael gets for her heroic.
Hold on.
It's the Hunt Haymaker. It's all in now.
Oh,
it's gotta
baby.
be all in now.
Woo! Tranquility picked up. Is that going to be enough to survive against this style? Odin. Now, a couple things that key to note. We have Relentless Soldier, which was picked up. So if you do get hunted, you get armor. Also, if you're being hunted, Odin, when you are casting it, is a cleanse. You are unstoppable while casting that. So if you pop that when you're being hunted, it's a way to make sure that you don't get stunned in the middle of that and you can start responding immediately. It's an interesting dynamic if you need to use it. We also have Dimensional Shift, double Dimensional Shift for Tassadar. Level 13 will have Ice Block for Malfurion. So tools to deal with it. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, from here until 13, Buds is a prime target. We didn't get as full in as I would have loved to see. No judgment. This is sanctification from Van, but see where he's putting his Eldruin. That's a scary spot now for Buds and Prismaticism who see that. And Draden's being very patient with this Archon.
And gives some vision and everything. You know, we have Odin the same way that we have Dragon Queen. They both are very strong around the shrines. Cattle, there's going to be the Haymaker. Cleansing Flame coming in as well as the Sanctification. Buds trying to survive. He's the first to fall, and it looks like they're trying to do more. Ben, however, is going to fall. There's Goku doing some damage, trading out 1 for 1.
And Glaurung is going to fall, making that a 2 for 1. Goku deep in the lines of Tempo Storm on that Sonya, and this is even pre-16 and 20, getting more survivability talent, but because they have the shielding of Tassadar, he can be more aggressive earlier on, just like we saw there. And trading out the 1 for 1 was best case scenario. You know that Buds is going to go down the way that that attack comes in. The Water Elemental was used, the Tempo Storm stepped forward, Buds was in a tough spot, Haymaker pushed Justine way far away, who still went into Lightning Breath, even given the heroic cooldown changes. But the best thing they could do was trade out there, and even getting the Punisher and the 2 kills is good for Octalysis.
Yeah, I think now Justin has seen the way that they want to function. Lightning Breath kind of overlapped with the Sanctification. He ended up turning his attention elsewhere, but you know, Cattle, you saw him take quite a bit of damage in the early part of that once he used that Haymaker because he got flipped in. I think we're going to see him, especially post-13, be a bit tankier once he gets that healing set. I think it's going to help him quite a bit because when you go Playmaker and you don't have Avatar, you become a liability as that, especially against the minigun, which is continuing to be stacked up here by Tychus.
That he is. I wonder what we'll see at 13 with that too. But for the moment, Octalysis using that advantage and running with it. Goku gets Haymakered into the base.
Oh, and
Hunt
hunted on.
fact.
Now we're going to see Goku. Can he make it out alive? Did go the spear upgrade at 13, allowing him to pull across that. Cleansing Flame, see if it can get the heal and the dismount. They're not going to commit, but you can see the clear strategy involved is to try and dive in, get the heals, and collapse on top. Unable to close ground, and that actually comes at a key moment because that's a pretty long cooldown, Gilly. I don't know if it'll be back for the next Shrine phase, or at least at the beginning of the next Shrine phase.
Jayhal, that was the most patient, unpanicked Haymaker target I have ever seen. Haymaker into the base, hunted. Yeah, I'm good.
I mean, if that's me, I'm just
spear.
like...
I know, I would have been running around at the chicken like a chicken with my head cut off. He just missed
I run
both
around
spears
with
over the
chickens
wall.
too.
Yeah, with a chicken.
Yeah,
and
I'm from Kentucky, so we run around with chickens.
I never knew.
You know, it's part of life. Either way, the healing, every time that circle of healing goes down, you can see the Sty Storm coming out. And once we see the double Sty Storm, the Psionic Echo at 16, that's an opportunity for Tassadar to continue to put damage down. It does not stack, but it does increase essentially the duration when you put it in the same general area. So it does give you an opportunity to, despite the healing, also kind of mitigate some of that with a little bit of damage of your own.
The root's gonna show. I'm watching Justin here. He's just watching too. Lightning Breath's over to take out the camp, along with the Psy Storm. That is 10 seconds longer of a cooldown, just want to point it out. It's not the end of the world, but it is 10 seconds longer.
10-second bunker, 10-second...
Lightning Breath.
Lightning
Apocalypse
Breath.
lost 10 seconds though.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm taking a look at this, is that Cleansing Flame will be back, and they are diving in. They have minions. Water Elemental is out and all. Justin, no Lightning Breath here. He is very tanky. Tranquility keeping people alive. Draden making his way over. Still a few minions left.
Sonya's coming in.
Ooh. Thinking about it, decided to stay mid, get some soak. And it's one of those things like, I'm here if you need me, but else I'm going to stay here mid.
With the Water Elemental being down, Tranquility is so effective on someone as high health bar as Justin, especially with the armor that you get as long as regrowth is on him. And then Tassadar was there too. You weren't going to get much more than a kill, but focusing on the kill and then not being able to get the 4 either, you could see Tempo Storm is trying to keep being aggressive, find opportunities. Goku knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, Haymaker's really short cooldown, just 40 seconds. Justin, however, trying to see if he can find an opportunity. Getting onto Cattle, Dwarf Toss minorly interrupted. The slow is going to be there, but friend or foe by Glaurung allows him to get out. Goku continuing the assault. Cleansing Flame going to keep everybody alive. That will not be available to be aggressive as the Shrine has started. Fan trying to zone out just a little bit. They're turning their attention over to Traded. Dimensional shifts out. Water Elemental still flanking on the backside.
Finds a prismaticism, and the amount of shove back. Tempo Storm's going to get back on the Shrine. Hunts in, a target found, Sanctification. Tassadar blown up, didn't have the Archon to get him back into Dimensional Shift, and he is just flat taken down. Tempo Storm finds the opportunity, the window necessary to get back in the Shrine before Octalysis can get the Punisher, and get 16.
The real question is, if this makes it to 20, are we going Grand Slam?
The double. Give him the double, J-How.
And you get the resets if
Yeah.
you get the kill after, which is one of my favorite things to do.
That was a great sync. And
Oh, yeah.
we talked about the flexing of Fan to this role, the responsibility that was put on him now with making the changes and having someone, the new person, come into the back line, and to flex over an Ethereal, rock the sync that hard, looked good for Tempo.
Now they have an opportunity. Punisher gonna be pushing in again. This time, no members down before it happened, so much stronger push. Odin popped in response, gonna give a little bit of damage, jumped over by Justin. There's gonna be a stun, Nature's Cure used, and now the defense will fall back to the keep wall.
Fan, you can see that holy
Yeah,
ground.
that is, I'm holding my breath over here.
know.
Like, I looked up and Hunt's off cooldown. I'm like, Holy Ground might come out, this could be bad.
Yeah, if you put that Eldrin right on the gate, that's something that has to be scary for Octalysis, especially because it was Bud. So many people were outside of the gate. They all backed off. They didn't want to get choked out of that, especially you play your cards right, you get the Punisher stun on top of that, and suddenly it's a lot more. We're going to see another Cleansing Flame as Tempo Storm attempts to retreat or attempts to dive back in. That works too.
Sanctification down, Draded with the Archon out. Sanctification no longer available, but Glaurung and team are doing significant damage as they go in. Lightning Breath trying to get on the flank side. As Fan, he's starting to fall here. See if they can get the fight going. Fan with the Eldruins, and there's a nice dive in, but a stun in return onto Justin, likely just save Fan's life.
I was sure that Holy Ground was enough, but Justin shadow charged right on through there and tried to get back in action. Did take domination, so he's trying to be more of that setup tank and have the stuns along with devastating charge. I'm all about the giant slammer that's there from Sonya. You know, there is no avatar when you go for a haymaker, and we don't even see something like Third Wind or Stone Form, so you're more reliant on the shields and the Sanctification of Tyrael, and maybe that % damage will be enough that Goku can just slam Murd into the ground.
I thought for sure that if you don't go into Avatar that you did go into the heal at 16, but Cattle has something else in mind, is going to rely on all the shields and healing. They are all in. Cattle also 32 stacks, did complete obviously the baseline, so he gets the pierce, but he's 32 stacks, starting to stack up there. So very, very damage oriented, and now with that increased Dwarf Toss range, Buds' positioning, Gilly, is even more paramount to keep an eye on because he has been a target. Him or Tassadar, depending on if shift is down. Very scary for that backline of Octalysis.
Especially with Northern Exposure, even Diablo could be a focus. Haven't been able to take him down and reset those souls yet, and as long as that maintains, and now that Goku is ramping up till later on, although again, didn't get Nerves of Steel here, it's Giant Slammer, all damage all day, but still maybe be able to get that big damage boost to take out Diablo in the front, reset those souls, and then from there it would be a much easier game for Tempo Storm to close out.
I really like the adaptation on builds on both sides. Obviously, we see Tychus switching it up. Neo still at 13 to deal with some of that. And then, of course, the overkill damage to primary target. You can't evade that. That's ability damage. So making sure not to rely too heavily on the auto attacks, things of that nature. This has just been full-on team fights. The macro that we generally see from both these teams, Gilly, it seems like the macro is basically through team fighting at this point because both these teams are throwing proverbial haymakers at this point. One of the teams just happens to actually be throwing haymakers.
Well, this is cool, though. Octalysis is going to hold on to the Shaman camp. Obviously, the Shrine is in the top lane, so this isn't trying to counter push while they head to a differing Shrine. It's Tempo Storm who's actually going to have more of a focus in the counter siege by picking up this mid camp. Even looking at trying to push out, Tempo Storm are a level ahead of Octalysis, and they're getting very close to 20. They're going to move in and just try to take down this fort. They are all about trying to get 20 And knowing where Octalysis was, Octalysis fully committed to that top lane, but Octalysis can start to push and try to take down some creeps with the Shaman.
This is potential to turn into a race. With Illidan, you can back, and I think that they called their bluff. They're like, oh, you're holding a deck of cards, but we got a Shaman camp. That is our deck of cards. And so what we could have seen is Illidan and team go forward, get that 20, especially off that keep wall, and then look to re-engage. But that Shaman camp that was so well timed by Octalysis, forget that macro thing I was talking about. That's a perfect case of macro there. Timing on the side of Octalysis. That also means a Punisher for them. I don't know how much they can get done with it though, because 20 is dangerously close here for tempo. So Octalysis, I think they're going to try and soak as much as they can. Maybe last hit one minion, which they might want to do soon for fear of actually getting ganked.
There you go.
For fear of getting ganked.
Woo! But yeah, I think why Tempo Storm was willing to do that is because they knew that they'd have 20 and couldn't free defend this. It's not even going to get anywhere near the structures, but that response from Octalysis having the Shaman was super good to push with that Shaman so that they still did get a little bit of structural damage. He's all right. Get a little bit of structural damage, so they're not too far behind. Octalysis just have that one level to make up for, and did get some keep tower damage in that top lane.
Well, we take a look at the 20s. Bolt was picked up by Illidan, a little bit more mobility, maybe to safety. Rewind picked up to get double the stuns, double the hammers going out, especially now that we're sitting on 35 stacks. Get a bit of burst damage in, get a little bit more tankiness.
You know what that's not double of, though?
The Haymaker.
Yeah. That's all right.
There's nothing like a good old Grand Slam.
Yeah, but when you're rocking 35 stacks on Perfect Storm and you finished your Stormbolt quest, I guess Rewind is also
But
pretty
what
good.
looks cooler, Gilly?
I mean, you're right.
I know. I love it. But I understand it.
Yeah. Camp in the bottom now. It's Tempo Storm. Attempts to get a push going there and just turn the map blue. Taking, or exploiting the idea that Team Octalysis don't have 20 yet, so they are going to be very safe, as you can see them hanging out in base.
Well, I think one thing to note, because Illidan went Blades of Azeroth at 16, which gives you bonus attack damage after you've hit 5 members with Sweeping Strike, and you can activate that. What that is not is marked for death, which is generally, even if you get Illidan on a core this late game, it's very difficult to deal with. But Marked for Death does work on structures, which has generally been the, hey, once you get on core, good luck, because you just dive, 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 and you get that bonus damage. Got to be a little different here, if that opportunity comes up.
We are not too long away from having longer Odin time, more damage, nuke version of Odin, Twilight Archon, likely some sort of survivability for Sonya.
I was just thinking the same thing as the way this game has played out. Is that even a guarantee? It seems like that has to be the case. I mean, I don't know if we see Sonya take too many other things.
Could run Composite Spear. I've seen Glaurung pick that before, though sometimes I feel like that's a From the Shadows, where sometimes it's a blessing and a curse to have that increased range. But if you can reliably hit it, then you do get the armor off the proc.
Gonna find out soon, because 20 rounding the corner. And Gilly, we might actually be approaching our last team fight, depending on the damage done and how many members fall on both sides. We're gonna find out as we do get a couple of heroics or level 20s locked in. So it will be Ignore Pain, making sure to get that 60 armor, trying to tank through that Infinite Archon, of course. Everything standard across the board, including Serenity picked up. But we also got the extended Lightning Breath, which that thing lasts for an eternity at level 20.
Nice to see Tempo Storm prioritize those bottom keep towers. It was the farthest away from the other shrine, but they'd already done keep tower damage in mid and in bottom, knew that one of these was going to be the next shrine. They're just setting up really well for this possible end game. That was a little scary.
It's a matter of who blinks first at this point. I mean, I'm loving these standoffs. The mental game of trying to play around this, and you can see Tempo Storm able to clear that up. So it's going to come down here. Only a 1-level advantage. Yes, that does matter at this point in the game, but it really comes down to execution. And right now, with the Shrine started, Dragon Queen available, Odin available on both sides as Tyrael comes in for the flank. There's going to be the double wall stun. Dragon Queen out. Got ourselves a fight.
Ooh, Octalysis melts under the pressure of Tempo Storm, but there is the long form of the flames as they're still going, and there's not even any Shrine Guardians. Now they spawn. 22 is what Octalysis gains through that. Odin is still here. but they're going to engage into it anyway.
Goku in trouble. He popped the armor. He's trying to survive now, spinning to win, and there comes the Sanctification. There's going to be the stun on the backside. Goku surviving for now. Sanctification out. The dragon is down, and somehow Octalysis is still standing toe-to-toe. Health bars extremely high. Tempo on retreat. This is going to be a Punisher going over to Octalysis. Can Octalysis find more? They are not, as Jun gets the knockback away, and nobody falls in that fight.
No, but Goku should have. He should have fallen. I don't know how he lived for that long with all the pressure. The Sanctification was good, Cleansing Flame was good too, but finally Tempo Storm had to relinquish control of this shrine. Octalysis takes down the small wall so they can dive in, along with this Dreaded keeping his Infinite Archon going. Goku and Justin, look how forward they are. They're ready to get that spear, but instead Tempo Storm strikes first.
Shifting out, Prismat extremely low. Neo Steel not enough to get the heal. Here comes the Lightning Breath again, but this might be a second member to fall. Prismat and Dreaded have both fallen. Glaurung somehow surviving for the moment. Tranquility out, keeping everybody alive. The Punisher still sitting at about 80% health, but that will be taken down eventually. And I don't think Tempo is ready to concede this. They still have Glaurung on that Illidan.
There is a Buds, a Goku, and a Justing versus all that Tempo Storm has to offer. Justing doing what damage he can with that devastating charge, but bring him down, Legolas. Vin finally takes out Buds too, and that call to engage, not allowing Octalysis to get the engagement the way that they wanted instead.
The Punisher, I don't think ends, but it will do core damage, and there's still a keep to go through. This is an Illidan. Odin should be available, I believe. Again, this is an Illidan on the core without marked for death. This should still be a potential game ender, but I think this is going to be very difficult. 8 seconds before Tychus is back, 10 seconds before Tassadar. Tempo Storm, they might just trade out here. Core starting to fall on the other side. They're going in here, Gilly. They don't have a choice. Cleansing Flames is out.
They have Odin. Sanctification too. This buys a lot of time on this core. The Water Elemental was used for the keep. Odin's there. They've got to take down Glaurung.
The Punisher!
If they can.
The Punisher!
The Punisher took out the core!
6%! Da 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 da! Wow. I thought for sure somebody had to do some percentage of damage to the Punisher, and I'm like, we don't get to see this situation very often where a Punisher just is left alone to go down bot lane.
I went crazy.
Like,
oh
it's very late. It's a very late Punisher. So the opportunity is, it was sitting, I think, around 50, 55% health when it got through the keep, and I'm thinking, surely somebody has to do some percentage of damage to it first and then go. But nobody responded to it, and they simply tried to trade out, and they lost that trade.
Yes.
What was the final percentage on Octalysis' side?
Oh, it was still like, I think 50 something.
Okay. Not even mark for death would have helped there. Wow.
I mean, we might be able to take another look at it, but that went crazy. I thought it was really cool though. Tempo Storm didn't allow